The massive viewing window of the space station showed Earth spinning below in brilliant blue and white. Ambassador Margaret Foster smoothed down her uniform one last time before stepping through the doors. Her heart was racing, but she kept her face calm. Behind her walked 3 others from Earth: Dr. Peter Walsh, Captain Thomas Reed, and Emma Clark. The council chamber was bigger than anything Margaret had ever seen. The ceiling stretched up so high it disappeared into darkness. Dozens of strange beings filled the room. Some looked like giant insects with too many legs. Others seemed to be made of living crystal that glowed from inside. A few floated in spheres filled with water. An enormous crystalline being stepped forward. Its body pulsed with soft orange light. Margaret had studied the files on the flight here. This was High Chancellor Vorin, the leader of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Foster, the alien said through a translator device. Welcome. We are very interested to learn about your species. Margaret smiled and bowed slightly. Thank you, Chancellor. We are honored to be here. We have prepared something to help you understand humanity better. Emma stepped forward and pressed a button on her tablet. A 3-dimensional picture appeared in the air above them. It showed young human children running and laughing in a park. One child was chasing the others. This is called tag, Emma explained. Children as young as 3 years old play this game. It teaches them to run fast, think quickly, and know where things are around them. An insect-like alien leaned closer. Its name was Commander Thrix. Your young ones practice hunting and escape tactics? This is for fun? Yes, Emma said brightly. Children love it. The picture changed. Now it showed children hiding behind trees and under tables while one child searched for them. This is hide and seek. It teaches children to find good hiding spots and to track and search. A floating alien in a water sphere made a rippling sound. The translator spoke. They train in secret operations? For entertainment. It is just a game, Emma said, looking a bit confused now. More pictures appeared. Human children playing chess, moving pieces across a board with serious faces. Young teenagers playing video games with complex rules. Kids pretending to fight with toy swords. Groups competing in running races and ball games. With each new picture, the aliens became more quiet, more tense. Peter noticed something was wrong. Is there a problem? He asked. High Chancellor Vorin's light flickered fast like a strobe. Margaret had read that this meant stress or fear. Ambassador Foster, what you call play seems to involve very advanced thinking. Your children practice fighting. They learn to hide and track. They calculate complex strategies. They train their bodies for extreme effort. These are things we teach only to our military forces. And your children do this for fun? Margaret looked at her team. They all seemed confused. Well, yes. This is normal for human children. It is how they learn and grow. Commander Thrix's insect body clicked and clattered. Our young spend their early years in protected nurseries. They learn cooperation and basic knowledge. What you have shown us looks like combat training from the very beginning of life. But it is not combat training, Thomas said firmly. These are just games that kids play. The chamber fell silent. Margaret could feel every alien eye watching them. Some of the aliens were backing away slightly. Others were whispering to each other in languages the translator did not pick up. High Chancellor Vorin finally spoke again. His voice was careful and measured. We need time to think about what we have learned today. Please enjoy our station as our guest. We will meet again tomorrow to continue our discussions. As the humans walked out of the chamber, Margaret glanced back. The aliens were gathered in tight groups, talking urgently. Some were gesturing at holographic displays showing the images of human children playing. Emma leaned close to Margaret and whispered, "Did we just frighten them?" Margaret watched an insect alien pointing frantically at a picture of children playing capture the flag. She saw a crystalline being's light turning dark purple, which according to her files meant deep concern or alarm. I think, Margaret said quietly, we might have just shown them something they were not ready to see. Peter walked beside them looking worried. They think we are training child soldiers. We are not, Thomas said. We are just being human. Maybe that is what scares them, Margaret replied. 3 days passed before High Chancellor Vorin came to find Margaret. The tall crystal being seemed nervous, his light flickering between orange and yellow. Ambassador Foster, I have a request. Perhaps we misunderstood your presentation about human children. We would like to test this properly. Margaret raised her eyebrows. Test? How? We have a simulation for young beings from different species. It tests their ability to solve problems and work together. If human children participate, we can see if their games truly make them as capable as we think. Or if we simply misunderstood. Margaret thought about this carefully. Finally she nodded. I will ask Earth. 1 week later, a shuttle arrived carrying 20 students from a school in London. They were between 11 and 13 years old. A teacher named Mr. David Hughes came with them to supervise. The children were incredibly excited. They pressed against the windows to see the aliens. They asked a million questions about everything they saw. Their energy seemed to confuse the insect aliens who were preparing the test room. Commander Thrix addressed the group of students. Young humans, you will enter a virtual world. Inside you will face challenges that test your thinking and cooperation. There is no time limit. Simply do your best. A girl with red hair named Sophie raised her hand. Is there a leaderboard? Hey, what? You know, something that shows who is winning? A boy named Jack added, yeah, like a scoreboard showing the top players. Commander Thrix's insect body went very still. This is not a competition. It is an assessment of your abilities. The children looked at each other. A boy named Henry muttered, everything is a competition if you try hard enough. The test began. Margaret and the council members watched from a room above as the children appeared inside the virtual forest. Their first challenge was to cross a river using materials they could find. The alien designers expected this to take about an hour. Young beings from other species usually needed that long to work together and build a simple raft. The human children took 12 minutes. They did not wait for instructions. Instantly they split into 3 groups without anyone telling them to do so. One group gathered logs. Another group twisted vines into rope. A girl named Lucy started giving orders like a construction manager. They built 2 rafts instead of 1 and raced each other across the river, laughing the whole time. Fascinating, Voren murmured. They organized themselves immediately and created a competition where we designed none. The next challenge appeared. The children had to navigate through a maze while avoiding robot guards. This challenge usually took 3 or 4 hours. It taught patience and careful observation. The humans treated it like tag with robots. They split up without discussion. Some children became decoys, running past the robots to draw them away. Others mapped the maze while the robots were distracted. A boy named Oliver discovered that the robots moved in patterns. He shouted this information to everyone else. Within 30 minutes they had beaten the maze. Then several kids went back through it again just to see if they could do it faster. They are experimenting, Peter said from the observation deck. Testing different methods to find the best solution. Challenge after challenge fell before the children. A logic puzzle designed to take days was solved in hours by kids who grew up playing puzzle games. A resource management test turned into a strategy competition. A conflict resolution exercise became an elaborate negotiation with rules the children made up themselves. Mr. Hughes watched with pride. They are doing wonderfully. But the aliens looked more disturbed with each passing test. The final challenge appeared. It had never been completed by young aliens before. It required solving a physics problem, managing limited resources, coordinating team movement, and adapting to random changes all at the same time. Sophie studied the scenario for a moment. Oh, this is like that raid in Dragon Quest. The Firebird Fortress? Henry asked. Exactly. Same basic setup. Jack, you handle resources like healing potions. Oliver, you coordinate movement like a raid leader. Lucy, you handle the math part. Lucy grinned. Easy. They completed the impossible challenge in 45 minutes. Then Sophie looked up at the ceiling where she somehow knew people were watching. Is there a harder difficulty setting? Commander Thrix's mandibles fell open. High Chancellor Voren's light turned white with shock. Around the observation deck, council members sat frozen in their seats. David spoke quietly to Margaret. Was that test supposed to be difficult? Margaret looked at the alien faces surrounding them. She saw shock, deep concern, and something that looked very much like fear. I think we just proved something they hoped was not true. The emergency meeting happened 3 days after the test. Every important species in the galaxy had representatives in the council chamber. The room buzzed with worried voices and nervous energy. High Chancellor Voren called for silence. We have finished studying what the humans showed us. Counselor Merva, our leading expert on species development, will share what she learned. The amphibious alien floated forward in her water sphere. Her voice came through speakers. My team researched everything we could find about human history and child development. What we discovered troubles me greatly. She pressed a control and holograms appeared showing ancient human objects. These are game boards from thousands of years ago. This one called Senate is over 5,000 years old. It teaches strategy and probability. This one called Go is nearly 3,000 years old and is one of the most complex games ever created. Humans have been teaching these skills to their children since the beginning of their civilization. The holograms change to show human children throughout history playing games. In every human culture in every time period we see the same pattern. Human children play fight. They chase each other. They compete in strategy games. They practice survival skills. All of this starts when they are very young. An insect counselor interrupted. But this must be their culture, not their biology. No, Merva said firmly. This is evolution. Humans came from a dangerous world. They call it a death world. Their planet has extreme weather, deadly animals, and constant environmental dangers. Human children who did not learn these skills quickly did not survive to have children of their own. Play is not optional for humans. It is survival instinct coded into their genes. She showed human stories for children. Look at their tales for young ones. They contain violence, death, moral choices, and survival scenarios. Other species tell their young about safety and happiness. Humans tell children about wolves eating grandmothers, kids lost in dangerous forests, and heroes fighting monsters. They call these fairy tales and consider them appropriate for 3-year-olds. Worried murmuring filled the chamber. Merva continued. The simulation proved human children can solve problems designed for trained adults. We thought those 20 children might be special or gifted. We were wrong. She showed test results and data. The human government gave us educational records. The children we tested are completely average. Not special at all. Average. The human education system trains millions of children to this level every single year. Commander Thrix stood up abruptly. Are you saying every human child receives what we would call military training? Humans would not call it military training, Merva replied. They call it elementary school. They call it playing. They call it growing up. But yes, by our standards, every human child is being prepared for combat and survival from birth. High Chancellor Voron's light pulsed with agitation. We invited a species of warriors into the galactic community. Not warriors exactly, Merva corrected. Persistence hunters. This is important to understand. Humans do not just fight. They outlast. They chase. They adapt. They never give up. This is why their children laugh when they fall down during play. Why they turn every challenge into a competition. Why they ask for harder difficulty. Giving up goes against every human instinct. An old crystal counselor spoke. What should we do? Humanity is already a member of this council, Merva said carefully. We cannot change that decision. But we must understand what they truly are. Humans are apex predators who somehow also evolved empathy and cooperation. They are capable of terrible violence and deep compassion. Their children learn both at the same time through play. The chamber fell completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Finally Voron said, then we must hope their compassion is stronger than their predatory nature. In the observation gallery above, Margaret sat with her team. They had been allowed to watch. They are afraid of us, Emma whispered. Can you blame them? Peter replied quietly. We just showed them that our average children can do things their adults cannot. Margaret stood up. Then tomorrow we show them something else. We show them that human children do not just learn to compete. They also learn to cooperate and help each other. Will that be enough? Thomas asked. Margaret looked down at the worried alien faces. It has to be. Because right now they think we raised a planet full of child soldiers. We need to show them the complete picture. Peter nodded slowly. We need to show them that human children learn when to stop fighting. Exactly, Margaret said. Before they decide we are too dangerous to keep around. Loud alarms screamed through the space station. The entire structure shook from a nearby explosion. Margaret and her team ran toward the command center where High Chancellor Voron was talking frantically with military officers. What is happening? Margaret demanded as she burst through the door. The Krell Dominion, Voron said. His light flashed red with stress. They have been testing our defenses for years. Today they attacked with their full military force. The large display screen showed a disaster unfolding in space. The Krell fleet looked like a swarm of angry metal insects. They had attacked 3 Council border stations at the same time. The Council's defensive ships were fighting back, but the early reports were terrible. Commander Thrix was receiving updates from the battle. Our fleet is engaging the enemy, but the Krell knew exactly what we would do. They have studied our tactics for decades. We are losing ships rapidly. Margaret made a quick decision. Chancellor, Earth wants to help. We can send military forces. Every alien in the room turned to stare at her. After a long moment, Voron nodded slowly. We accept your offer. How fast can your ships arrive? Our 7th fleet is nearby. They can be here in 6 hours. Then please, Ambassador. We need help desperately. 6 hours later, Admiral Rebecca Shaw appeared on the bridge through a communication hologram. The tall woman studied the tactical situation with sharp, calculating eyes. Admiral Shaw, thank you for coming, Vorin said. Commander Thrix will add your ships to our defensive formation. With respect, Chancellor, that will not work, Rebecca interrupted. Your formations are too predictable. The Krell have figured them out completely. Our military doctrine has been refined over centuries, Thrix said angrily. And that is exactly why it is failing. Rebecca gestured to a young woman beside her who looked barely old enough to be out of school. This is Lieutenant Amy Foster. She will advise your tactical command. The council members looked shocked. Counselor Merva spoke up. Admiral, we face a military crisis. You send us a child? She is 23 and one of our best tactical minds, Rebecca said calmly. She grew up playing competitive strategy games. She won multiple tournaments before she turned 20. This is not a game, Thrix shouted. Amy stepped forward, completely calm despite the angry insect alien. No sir, it is not a game. But warfare and games use the same principles. Resource management, positioning, timing, and adaptation. The only difference is the stakes. Before Thrix could respond, alarms blared again. The Krell have broken through our second defensive line, an operator called out. Show me, Amy said. Her eyes moved rapidly across the tactical display, processing information at incredible speed. They are using a pincer attack. Very standard, but it works because you keep responding the same way every time. Chancellor, permission to give orders to the fleet. Vorin hesitated, then gestured agreement. Amy's fingers flew across the controls. 7th Fleet, this is tactical command. Break formation immediately. Execute pattern Delta 9. On the display, the human ships suddenly scattered in all directions. Every rule of proper military formation was broken. The council officers gasped in horror. What are you doing? Thrix demanded. You destroyed your own formation. Exactly, Amy said without looking up. The Krell expect proper formations. We are giving them chaos instead. The human ships moved independently with unpredictable patterns and sudden changes in direction. They were not following any military doctrine. They were playing. One human ship called the Steadfast flew straight toward a huge Krell battleship, drawing all its weapons fire. But it was a trick. While the Krell focused on the Steadfast, 2 smaller human ships attacked from unexpected angles and crippled the battleship's engines. That is the sacrifice play from chess, Peter whispered to Margaret. Use one piece as bait while your real attack comes from somewhere else. Another group of human ships led Krell fighters into an asteroid field like children playing tag. But the humans knew the asteroid locations perfectly. They had scouted the field earlier. The Krell fighters crashed into rocks they could not see coming. The Krell had trained to fight organized military formations. They had no idea how to fight enemies who broke every rule and changed tactics constantly. Amy kept calling orders. Port wing, deny them resources. Do not let them retreat to resupply. Starboard wing, execute feint pattern 3. Endeavor, you are bait. Led them toward the nebula. This is insane, Thrix muttered. But he was watching the display with growing amazement. The humans were winning. 6 hours into the battle, the Krell fleet began to retreat. The emergency council meeting happened the next day. Every species representative was present and the chamber felt tense and heavy with unspoken worry. High Chancellor Vorin opened the session. The council must address what happened yesterday. Humanity saved many lives and we are grateful. However, we can no longer ignore what they represent. A species whose children have abilities that exceed our trained military specialists. Worried murmurs spread through the chamber. We have a choice, an older crystal counselor said. Accept humanity as they are or ask them to leave the council. Margaret Foster stood up from the human gallery. Chancellor, may I speak to the council? After a long pause, Vorin gestured her forward. Margaret walked to the center platform. Dozens of alien species surrounded her, all watching with fear and suspicion. She took a deep breath. You call it child's play and you are horrified. But I think you are missing something important. Yes, we train our children through play. Yes, our games teach competition, strategy, and never giving up. But that is not the whole story. She activated a holographic display. You have seen our children play tag and solve impossible puzzles. But let me show you what else they learn. The display showed human children playing soccer and basketball. Competition, yes. But also teamwork. Learning to work together toward a shared goal. trusting teammates, putting the team before yourself. Another image appeared showing children playing board games around a table. Strategic thinking, certainly, but also good sportsmanship. Shaking hands after the game ends. Learning to lose with dignity and win with humility. Following rules they enforce themselves without adults watching. Next came images of children playing elaborate pretend games. These are role-playing games. Children create characters and navigate complex moral problems. They learn to see from different perspectives. To understand that others think and feel differently. They develop empathy. The display showed playgrounds around Earth. You saw children chase each other in what looks like combat training. But watch closely. The hologram showed a child falling during tag. Immediately, all the other children stopped playing. They helped the fallen child stand up and made sure they were okay before continuing the game. We teach our children to compete fiercely, Margaret said. But we also teach them when to stop competing. When to show compassion. When to help instead of defeat. She looked around the chamber. You are right to be cautious of humanity. We are persistence hunters. We evolved on a dangerous world that required us to be adaptable, tough, and yes, potentially violent. But here is what makes us different from simple predators. We evolved empathy alongside our hunting instincts. Counselor Merva spoke up. How is that possible? Evolution does not usually favor such contradictions. Because humans are social creatures, Margaret replied. We could not survive alone on Earth. We needed tribes and communities. A human alone dies. Humans together survive and thrive. So we evolved to be both competitive and cooperative. Fierce with enemies and compassionate with friends. She gestured to images of children from many Earth nations playing together. Our child's play teaches both lessons at once. Yes, we teach our kids to never give up and to overcome obstacles. But we also teach them fairness, teamwork, empathy, and when to extend a helping hand. Commander Thrix leaned forward. Yesterday your Lieutenant Foster used tactics we considered dishonorable. Yet you claim to be compassionate? We fought to win, Margaret acknowledged. But notice we targeted ships, not stations full of civilians. We disabled enemy vessels when we could have destroyed them. And when the Krell retreated, we stopped pursuing. We could have destroyed their entire fleet. Instead we let them go. She paused. That is also something humans learn through play. When the game ends, it ends. You do not keep fighting. You show mercy to defeated opponents. Admiral Shaw stood in the gallery. The Council fears humanity's capacity for violence. That fear is reasonable. But consider this. Humanity has possessed weapons that can destroy all life on Earth for over 70 years. Nuclear weapons. Do you know why we have not used them to exterminate each other? Why? Vorn asked. Because child's play taught us that winning is not everything. That cooperation produces better results than destruction. That today's enemy might be tomorrow's ally. Rebecca smiled slightly. Also because we are persistence hunters. We think long-term. Destroying potential resources, including former enemies, is simply bad strategy. Margaret continued. The Council can choose to fear us. That fear is not unreasonable. But consider another option. Accept us as true partners. Our different way of thinking can benefit the Council. Yesterday proved that difference has value. Voron's light pulsed thoughtfully. What exactly are you proposing? A formal alliance. Let humanity help with Council defense. In exchange, we share our educational methods and unique perspective. The chamber fell silent as Council members debated quietly. Finally Voron called for a vote. It was not unanimous but the majority agreed. The alliance passed.